Hi everyone, this is Anto Chávez with Bilatina News, and today we're talking to Sophia Espinoza, who is a bilingual educator and who specifically works with Canticos, developing their curriculum and their content. So I'm really excited about talking to her and just finding out how they come up with this amazing curriculum, and especially because it's online and it's for children who are now mostly at home, given that we are living through a pandemic. So it's really good information and resources for all parents out there, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say. So she is recording. We should start very soon. Hi, Sophia. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining us. And so I would love to start with an introduction. So if you can tell everyone who you are and what you do, that'd be lovely.
Great, of course. So I'm Sophia Espinoza. I'm the Director of Learning Design and Efficacy at Encantos. Basically, that is a fancy way of saying that I am in charge of making sure that all of our educational products have strong educational value, that they're really kind of teaching kids all the things we're setting out to teach. Things definitely like bilingualism, but we also focus a lot on social emotional skills. Especially because Canticos is a preschool brand, we know that it's very important for children to develop skills like empathy, social awareness, and so these are other things that I focus the curriculum on.
Yeah. And so how do you all come up with a curriculum at Canticos and who is involved? Because I know you're a part of that team and you are an educator, but I would love to know a little bit more about who are the other people involved and how do you come up with it?
Yeah, we take a really unique approach. I'd say that at a lot of other educational companies, you might see, educators making educational materials that, work okay, but might not be really fun. And that's something that's certainly not the way that we approach things here, because there is so much music and fun and kind of play-based learning involved in everything that we do. Our approach is really unique, and so I work really closely with Susie Jaramillo, who's our Chief Creative Officer and one of the founders of Canticos. She has really wonderful stories to tell. She knows the best ways of incorporating music and lullabies and nursery rhymes into the education. And then we're also working with product designers who know things like how to make really fun kids' toys. And so kind of these three pieces, the product and the toy piece, the storytelling and the music piece, and then the education piece come together, and that's how we create all of the wonderful curriculum. And I wanted to add that a big part of our kind of philosophy is that children love bilingual nursery rhymes, and Latin American nursery rhymes are just universally loved. Certainly by the Latin American families who grew up with them, parents that listen to these songs themselves growing up. But also, they just have universal appeal. Like anyone who listens to our songs, like, De Colores or these songs they're just beautiful. They have so much cultural value too. And so that's kind of why the premise of Canticos is using these songs to make all of these wonderful experiences. And so, yeah, that's a big part of our focus too. So we're always thinking about, what are different nursery rhymes that we haven't tapped into yet? What are different stories or beautiful pieces of culture that we could use, that we could really uplift with our products and kind of with all the media and books and everything else that we do.
Yeah, yeah. And I would love to delve a little bit more into the actual Canticos app. How do you, what do you take into consideration when you're developing this online content, and how is it different from your physical educational materials? Because you do have those as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I want to really start off by saying that we're designing a preschool app. And so certainly, we don't believe that a preschooler needs to be in front of a screen all day to learn. In fact, this is kind of why we're doing part digital, part physical toys and other educational products, is that, for one, it's not the best way to learn and certainly not a great way to engage preschoolers. But for two, we're at a time right now where we're so on screen whether it's school or, you know, work for parents or just watching TV, Netflix, whatever it is. You know, we're doing a lot of extra screen watching nowadays. And so we want to make sure that the small kinds of really valuable times that we design for children on screens are really great and really fun. But then we also want to think about, you know, what are going to be all the fun activities and other things that we can do with them off screen. So going back to the app, it is a lot of game-based learning because kids learn best through play, because also, you know, like we can do something like make a worksheet digital, but that's not very fun. That's not a very innovative approach. And so something that we're, you know, definitely going to continue doing and we're starting to do now is developing our products with children's feedback, you know, like really looking closely at how they're interacting with the app. Are they enjoying it? You know, what games are more effective? What games, you know, maybe get abandoned after a minute or two? And so the kind of child feedback piece is an important part of it. And then the physical products are just very hands-on. They're meant to spark conversations. They're meant to teach vocabulary, right? That's a big part of language learning, is just starting at the vocabulary level. And so they are bilingual, you know, English and Spanish side by side, sometimes one side on the front, one side on the back. I really use all of my knowledge on how kids best learn. You know, how they acquire vocabulary in a new language, how you can use their native language as a foundation for their second language. And so it's great to use kind of all of the learning science and language acquisition I know to create both of the products, but certainly in the physical products, because you're able to manipulate them in certain ways and interact with them in certain ways. There's a lot of thought that goes into, you know, how does a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, 5-year-old really learn a new word? Right? And it involves song, pictures, physical products, and definitely a little bit of digital games so that they keep practicing it again and again. And then once they've really mastered it, it's something that because they were on the app and we captured that learning on our digital platform, we can move them on to the next, kind of the next word or the next set of vocabulary for them to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. And along the same lines, what would you say are the main benefits of the Canticos app?
So the thing that I always emphasize to parents is that learning a new language should start as early as possible. Certainly you can learn a new language later on in life, but if you want really native proficiency, you know, whether it's like vocabulary or grammar or certainly things like pronunciation, those are all things that if you start, you know, when your child is just born, just exposing them to a new language, certainly through age 5, that's kind of like the perfect window because children's brains at that age, they're just sponges. And so they're just eager to learn new things and their neural connections are so vast that they're able to learn a new language in kind of the easiest, best way. And so this is kind of why we've really designed this whole brand around preschool and, you know, also for baby and toddler, because we know that it's the best time to introduce a new language. And so you're giving your child the gift of a new language. And so that's certainly the thinking behind the app, you know, giving them an opportunity to practice, as I said before, in a way where it can move them along. And take what they've already learned, maybe use that to reinforce some new skills, introduce new skills at the right time, all in a way that's optimized for them. It'll help them really build that foundation to one day have native proficiency. And so the biggest goal is do it early. You know, certainly I'd say from ages 0 to maybe 2, and expose your children to the Canticos music and the videos, right? You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that app time is great for the baby and toddler phases. But once they hit 3, that's like the perfect time to give them the app. If you give them the Canticos app, they're getting something really high quality built by experts. So, you know, you can think about the appropriate amount of time that they spend on it, you know, maybe 30 minutes or less, something like that. So it's really focused, high quality time in language learning. And then it teaches them a lot of other skills too, right? Some of the social emotional skills that I described.
Yeah, definitely. And so, there may be some parents that are really worried about app time, especially now, as you mentioned, because of the pandemic. Because as a result of the pandemic, how have you made sure that Canticos remains engaging and appealing to kids who are mentally exhausted, maybe by all of their virtual classes, the assignments, the responsibilities that they have to juggle right now? How have you made sure that this is not like another, really tiring thing that they need to do on screen?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that we developed along with the app is something called the Parent Guide. And so anyone who subscribes to the app gets access to the Parent Guide, and it's a place where we've put together a lot of really wonderful curated materials. And it's things like activities that you can do inside your home, outside your home, to build vocabulary, to build social emotional skills. We definitely have some worksheets and some printables, so things like that where you can kind of like, whether it's coloring or cutting out, practicing different kinds of math, reading concepts, really great foundational skills. And then, just like all of our products are, as I said before, just meant to spark a conversation, meant to practice bilingual language, and they're all physical products, and they're designed for babies and toddlers and preschool age children. So there are things like board books where they're very sturdy, they're meant to be played with, and they're off screen, right? All of these are really, really important products that we've created for off-screen experiences, and so we have an abundance of these things. And I'll quickly mention one of my favorite resources for teachers and for parents is something called the Canticos Learning Hub. So if you go to our website, canticosworld.com, and you go on the Learning Hub section, there are all of those printables, and there are all sorts of ways you can filter them, look through them, and so you can find exactly what you're looking for there.
What? Oh, I think it was pause for a second. That's wonderful. And so this is a really good segue, because I was also thinking about the parents and how they need to navigate the app, and how, depending on your child's way of learning, you need to adapt to what, they're getting from these games and getting from these learning experiences. So what would you recommend parents whose kids only focus on their native language and maybe don't feel confident enough to start speaking in a second language when they're using Canticos?
Yeah, I get this question all the time. This is something that, native English speaking parents, native Spanish speaking parents raise to me constantly. They want their kid to learn a new language, but they see resistance. It's really hard for them to engage their child. And so I say the number one thing that you need to do is have a lot of patience. And I also really, really encourage parents, instead of kind of putting pressure on their children or maybe guilting them for things like not having a great accent in their new language, or not learning quickly enough, just that is the sort of thing that causes children to freeze up and want to disengage. And it's something that sometimes will happen, but we want to really discourage that as much as possible. And instead, the approach would be find things that the children love in the second language you're trying to teach them. Really high quality things like really great TV shows, books, right? That's certainly why we have used the approach of creating bilingual books, and the app. Put those things in front of kids and make sure that they have a little bit of ownership and excitement around using these things. It can't be a forced, like this is your app time, or this is your book, your Spanish book time. Again, that just builds, frustration and hesitation from children. So it needs to be slow. And one approach that I really encourage parents to use is to maybe not even explicitly telling children this, but creating some goals for their children, and kind of picking something that they want their child to work on, and really just taking the time not to fix everything about this child's kind of second language learning journey, but picking one thing that they want their child to get really good at and focusing on that until, they've done a good job of mastering it and they can move on. Like, for example, say your child is speaking Spanglish and you really want them to, speak in a full sentence in just English or just Spanish. What you do is you model using that or saying that sentence correctly back to them. So instead of saying like, no, you said that wrong, or like the word is this, You can do things like, oh, can you say that whole sentence in Spanish? Can you try saying the whole thing in Spanish? Or something like, like you say it back correctly, right? Like maybe a child says something like, I want to go to the cine, and you want them to say the whole thing in Spanish. You could say like, oh, ¿quieres ir al cine? And then the child hears it, and so they know better. They've learned something. And so then the next time they'll be more open to trying it themselves. Even as adults, we know that trying to speak a new language, it can be scary, right? And so we want to keep that in mind, and just give children the opportunity to feel positively about it and be excited about it, and then be able to show off what they do know with confidence, instead of giving them a little bit of a hard time about the things that they don't know or are not doing well yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It should be fun. And like you said, you should never guilt them. Even, even for people who are not learning a language when they're young, it's very difficult to be confident enough to start speaking it. Even more so if somebody's telling you, you just said it wrong. So I think that's a really great point that you just made, positive reinforcement, and more of like, just repeating the sentence how you want them to say it, instead of, emphasizing that it's wrong. And I know you touched a little bit on this, but I would love to know a little bit more about your favorite Canticos products, and for our audience to learn more about that.
Yeah, of course. I actually have some of them right here. It was so exciting. I got all of our new products recently, and so it's been like early Christmas over here, opening them all up and checking them out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. So one of my favorite products of ours are these bilingual puzzle pairs. And this version, we have a few, but this is for numbers. And so again, as parents and as teachers, we might get really excited when a child can count to 10. But that's just basic memorization. They're just learning to say words in a pattern. That doesn't necessarily mean they understand the value of all the numbers that they're learning. So while it's good to encourage them to be able to count to 10 and have that vocabulary, it's also really important for them to build a strong understanding and have number sense and understand what those values all are. So something as simple as a number puzzle like this actually really helps them learn counting, right? It's two, it says two, dos.
Right.
And on the other side in English, two. And there's a picture that goes with it, and they have to match it up. And so you can do so many simple things, like just have your child count, right? Uno, dos, or one, two. And again, simple, but these are preschool children who are just learning these concepts for the first time. And just the fact that our products are so beautiful, like we just always get feedback from parents that they love the quality of our products.
I love those pollitos. They're so cute.
They're so cute, right? And they're so, they bring such warm, fuzzy feelings for all of us who grew up with them. So parents really love and appreciate our products. They give them so much nostalgia. So these puzzle pairs are great. I really love that one. And then another one of my favorites are, we have these packs of stroller flashcards. And the idea is that you can hold, like you kind of hook this onto your stroller, oh, wow. And your child, can like read them and play with them. Well, not read, but, read the pictures, look at them more closely, and they're really beautiful. Again, the illustrations and the quality are great. And even though they're stroller cards, like they certainly are not limited to children that are, that age. They're great. I've even heard teachers really love these. Teachers have a lot of products like these in their classroom that they like to use to help reinforce vocabulary. And so again, it'll be Spanish on one side and English on the other side. And the idea is with vocabulary, you always want to have the different words side by side. That's the best way to build a connection. Here's the concept. Here it is the word in English. Here's the word in Spanish.
Yeah, and I love how everything is very visual, right? Like you always have the drawing right there with it. Even with the numbers, they're counting, 2 elephants or 2 little chickens or whatever it is. So it's not just memorization, like you mentioned. So I think that's super important. And so I really appreciate your time here, and I love that you joined us. I really enjoy talking about Canticos, and I would appreciate if you can redirect all of our audience to your platforms and to your website.
Yes, please. So check us out on Instagram. It's Canticos World, and same with our website. It's canticosworld.com. So please go check out our products. I'm not quite sure if you can still order them in time for Christmas, but we do have gift cards that you can order in time. So yeah, please check out all those things.
Yay, that's awesome. So there you go. Here's a really, really good idea for a Christmas present for parents and for their children, something that's going to be fun, but also they will learn. So thank you so much for all of this awesome information about Canticos, and I hope you have a great day.
Of course, no problem. Thank you. Have a great day too. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.